Did you guys see that microplastic study? Not the spoon. The spoon. You guys hear about the spoon? The amount of microplastics in tissue and brain samples has been going up. Blue is 2024, green is 2016. Apparently, the median brain now has enough microplastics in it. It weighs a plastic spoon, the kind you get at a fast food place, like the median brain, like your brain. The human brain contains an entire spoon's worth of microplastics. I don't got the spoons for this news. Levels are even higher in those with dementia. That sounds about right. It's a good study. It's from Nature. It's a real study. Environmental concentrations of anthropogenic microplastic and nanoplastic. Would all plastics not be anthropogenic, right? Polymer-based particulates ranging from 500 nanometers. No, that's nanometers. What is this? Picometers? Micro? That's micrometers? Okay, gotcha. I don't respect the metric system. Have increased exponentially over the past half century. Well, that's cool. Numbers are going up, folks. So how do you take out the microplastics? Well, you can't. Brain tissues were found to harbor 7 to 30 times higher proportions of MNPs compared to plastics in the liver or kidney. Electron microscopy verified the nature of the isolated brain MNPs, which present largely as nanoscale shard-like fragments. You see what those little bits are? Look at that. That's in your brain right now. Billions of them. Probably not good. This is why I bought a nice wooden cutting board. Yeah, you should definitely invest in a nice wooden cutting board, for sure. Though I don't know, microplastics are just that. They're micro. They're not like little bits of plastic that are getting chopped up on your plastic cutting board, you know? Like they're the aerosolized tire dust when you use a car, like the tire dust. But do microplastics actually do anything to us in our bodies? Well, the fact that people with dementia have higher concentrations of it probably does mean something, yeah. It's bioaccumulation, so that means we're eating things with the plastics already in them. Yeah. It's like microscopic particles in the food that we eat because the animals ate the things that had the microplastics in them and so on and so forth, you know? Anything we can do about this? Nope. Nope. No, there's probably no lifestyle changes that you could make to prevent this, apart from only consuming food that you've like chemically pre-processed to remove all plastic, which I don't think is really viable. Ooh, see, yeah, the dementia cases have way more brain microplastics. That's probably not good. One whole spoon in my brain. Feel it itching. Could they create a means to remove plastic from us or foods? Well, the problem is that the whole reason we use plastic for stuff is that it's really chemically inert. There's not a lot of stuff that, like, disintegrates plastic. If there was, it wouldn't be such an issue with the landfills. So, you know, once it's in you, it's kind of in you. A study published on Thursday found tiny plastic pollution to be significantly higher in placentas from premature births. Microplastics can block blood vessels in the brains of mice, causing neurological damage, but noted that human capillaries are much larger. Well, that's nice. Most common plastic found was polyethylene, which is used in plastic bags and food and drink packaging. It made up 75% of the total plastic on average, mostly nanoscale shards and flakes of plastic. Plastic concentrations in the organs were not influenced by age, cause of death, their sex, or ethnicity. Wonder if there's any good news. You know? Just a little bit, maybe? Is there any way to get rid of it? Where's the actual article? Here, let me find here it is. The good news? Drinking boiled tap water reduces human intake of nanoplastics and microplastics. What, because it makes the nanoplastics settle? I'm not doing that shit. That's too much work. I'm going to treat every drink of water like I have to boil it, then treat it like it's Greek coffee or something where you don't drink the sludge at the bottom. Discussion. Yeah, I understand all this. I'm a doctor. The microplastics don't break down at all. They only get broken into smaller and smaller pieces unless they are under extreme circumstances. Yeah, though the smaller they are, the less likely they're able to block blood veins, I guess. So at least there's that. There was a study that showed giving blood reduces microplastics in the body. Or in other words, blood filtration removes microplastics. And and plasma as well. What damage does the plastic do specifically, though? Well, plastic is mostly chemically inert or biochemically inert. So it's not like a heavy metal. It's not like having lead in your brain, right? Like lead in your brain, it bonds with the chemical receptors that are meant to bond with iron, and then they can't bond with anything ever again because it can't process the lead. It's not like a heavy metal. You know, it's not like mercury poisoning or whatever. It's also like, because it's so biochemically inactive, how do you remove it? There are ways of chemically degrading plastic, but you don't want to do that to plastic that's in your body, you know? Theoretically, it could cause strokes down the line, no? Well, thankfully, we have big blood vessels, you know? There are differences between us and mice when it comes to like the way in which surface tension and like accumulation on the surfaces of the interior of the blood vessel affect the likelihood of the plastic piling up to the point where it could cause a stroke or whatever else. So hopefully, look, the real question is, okay, hopefully the dementia caused the higher levels of microplastics, not the other way around. And I know what you're thinking. How would that work? Wouldn't the higher levels of microplastics cause the dementia? Yeah, probably. But it is possible that a dementia-addled brain, which physically is different from a non-dementia-addled brain, might be less capable of purging microplastics from itself. There might be like a weakening of the regulatory functions that might be more receptive to damage and accumulation. It's possible. A dementia-addled brain is different from a non-dementia-addled brain. So, you know, maybe. I think the article said that a causal link should not be assumed specifically because the damage would be expected to lead to that. So the article is suggesting my hypothesis might be correct, that a dementia-addled brain might just be worse at regulating and repelling the microplastics. Correct? Well, that's good. I'm so glad we fund research like this. Yeah, for now. This was actually the last study the government will ever fund. I don't know if the government funded this. I'm just saying shit. Looking at the graph, that theory seems likely. There's such a large gap between the two brain types in amount of plastics. You're right. That's a good point. If you look at this, right here, you know, down here you have concentrations in normal brains, and then up here you have concentrations in dementia brains. The difference is massive. Like, you've got, like, the median down here is sub 5,000 brain microplastics per gram, you know, whatever measurement they're using. Whereas up here in the dementia cases, we're between 10 and 50,000. That's a pretty massive gulf, which suggests that it's not just microplastics causing the dementia. Because if that was the case, why would these individuals have so much microplastics in their brain? Like, what are they doing to get 10 times the amount of microplastics, you know? Dementia patients on average are older, so they would have accumulated more plastic over time. Nope. It said that the results did not, there were not differences based on age. Age was not a factor in the accumulation of microplastics. It could be related to the vascular flow to the brain. I think that's a perfectly cromulent hypothesis. There are studies for injectable enzymes to remove microplastics. I'm so enzyme pilled. Like I was saying earlier today on stream, I'm so enzyme pilled. Fill my guts with bacteria that can digest everything. I don't care. Atrophy of brain tissue, impaired blood-brain barrier integrity, and poor clearance mechanisms are hallmarks of dementia and would be anticipated to increase MNP concentrations. Thus, no causality is assumed from these findings. Yes! Good news, guys. Microplastics in the brain might not cause dementia. It might be the other way around. It might mean that people with dementia get a tasty plastic treat on the way out. For all we know, it doesn't even affect them negatively. That's not what they're studying here. And remember, the best way to prevent things like dementia and Alzheimer's is use chopsticks and play video games. Not kidding. Keep an active mind, folks. The Asians really are winning. Not to play on ethnic stereotypes, but it probably isn't a coincidence that a ton of white people seem to, like, mentally fade in their 70s or whatever, especially when they live in, like, suburban McMansions and experience nothing new and don't talk to people. And there are tons and tons and tons of old people in Tokyo that I saw while out in Tokyo that were just doing their shit like normal, you know? I don't think it's just a chopsticks thing either. I think a lot of it is unironically like an urban like walkable neighborhood thing. Like in America, if you want to get groceries, you have to get in your car and drive 25 minutes if you live in the suburbs, maybe, to go to the grocery store, and you don't talk to anyone and you're in a bubble. Right? As opposed to like walking downstairs, then walking 3 blocks or whatever, then walking back, you know? You got to activate the brain. It's exercise too. Yeah, exercise. The diet probably helps as well, to be sure. I mean, I met plenty of 70-year-olds in my city that were doing shit. I'm speaking very generally, but when I think of like old person who is still very much on their beat, I think of like an old In America, I think of like New York City Jewish people because a lot of them live in very tight-knit communities. So they're like socializing with large groups of people. New York City is very walkable. They're doing stuff. And when I think globally, like I just remember going to Tokyo and just there were like a lot of old people, not like 70, but old people who are just doing shit, you know? It has nothing to do with ethnicity. It's just like, you know, keep your brain active, I think. Well, young people can't afford to live in Tokyo. Shows what you know. Tokyo is incredibly affordable. If you guys wanted to, you want to get the paperwork, you could go over there. Housing costs over there, very, very, very cheap. Stagnating population growth, and they keep building new houses. Yeah, no? Yeah, yes. What do you mean, yeah, no? Tokyo is affordable as but not for everyone. Well, yeah, that's the case for any city. How do they view trans people and disabled people? Disabled people, they hate you. Trans people really depends. Japan's government and people are relatively conservative, but in more of a like staunch, stiff upper lip, we don't like change kind of way than an openly reactionary, we will throw rocks at you kind of way. So it kind of depends on, you know, it should be noted you still have to pay American taxes as an expat. Well, yeah. You're welcome to feel vindicated, but if you missed it, heavy cannabis use has proven to reduce working memory. Yeah, you shouldn't do that shit, man. It's not good for you. Every one of you, I bet, knows somebody who either is or will be like an actual waste of life because they spent their 20s smoking so much weed that it fucked their brain, and now they can't concentrate on anything and they have no ambition. That, dude. At least being drunk means you can get some stories out of it, you know? Drunk people do funny things. What do high people do? Nothing. Worthless drug. As a former alcoholic who uses weed to deal, fuck you. I take your hate. Judge me by the character of the people who hate me. I can feel your inbox filling up. Don't worry. Stream still goes for another few minutes, so if we wait long enough, they'll forget to email me. If I throw away all my weed right now, is there still time for me to go back, or is my brain fried after 3 years of weed use? You're fine. 3 years of weed use, you're probably fine. Best time to quit is today. Well, first, best time to quit was the day you started. Second best time to quit is today. You'll be okay. You got this. One of my best friends, a weed addict. He's basically completely non-functional. He's 22. Yeah, it's pretty fucked up. It's pretty fucked up. I wonder if we're ever going to hit the 2-spoon point.